Have you ever felt so invisible in your own family that you start to wonder if you even exist? My name is Camilla Stevens. For 28 years, I lived in the long shadow of my sister, Lily, the golden girl of Brookville. In our tiny town, everyone knew her name. They whispered about her achievements, envied her effortless grace, and celebrated her like she was royalty. And me? I was the ghost in every photograph, the forgotten face at every family gathering, the quiet silence behind every conversation. That night, our old house felt heavy, the kind of heavy silence that presses down on you so thick you can almost taste it. It was the kind of silence that screams louder than any argument. Dinner was a stage, and Lily was the star. She sat confidently at the head of the table, basking in the warm glow of our parents' unwavering pride. Her laughter tinkled like glass, and her stories about her recent promotion, the designer dress she'd bought for an upcoming gala, and the boyfriend everyone envied sliced through me like knives. Mom's eyes sparkled with admiration, her voice soft and proud, reserved only for Lily. Dad nodded silently, his smile an unspoken vow of loyalty to her alone. And me? I was invisible, the ghost everyone pretended didn't exist. My hand trembled as I reached for my glass. I caught a fleeting glimpse of Mom's eyes, cold, distant, like a gust of winter wind. No warmth, no comfort. Dad brushed past me without so much as a glance. I froze. My throat went dry. My heart pounded like a war drum. Then came the words that shattered everything. Lily turned toward me, a cruel smirk playing on her lips. "Don't worry, Camilla. Maybe someday you'll have a story worth telling, too." That sentence cut deeper than any blade. I wanted to scream, to throw the glass across the room, to make them all see me, to make Lily see me. But instead, something inside me broke. I stood up. "I'm done," I said, my voice cracking but burning with the fire of years of silence and pain. The room fell into suffocating silence. My words hung in the air, thick and heavy like smoke. Lily's smirk vanished, replaced by a glare so sharp it cut right through me. Mom's eyes flashed with disapproval. Dad clenched his jaw, his silence more brutal than any words. For the first time, I was not just a shadow. I was a force raw, trembling, undeniable. Outside, the wind howled like a warning, rattling the windows of our old house. Inside me, a fierce fire ignited a raging blaze fueled by years of neglect, invisibility, and underestimated strength. That night, I promised myself, I would rise. I would fight. I would no longer be forgotten. As I lay in my dark room, the walls seemed to close in on me, whispering doubts and memories, like shards of broken glass. Birthdays where Lily basked in gifts and attention, while I melted into the background. Dad's dismissive glance whenever I nervously showed him my achievements. Mom's whispered comparison, "She's the ambitious one." Those words stung deeper than any insult. Tears threatened to fall, but beneath them burned an unyielding flame, a promise to never be the invisible girl again. The days that followed forged me in fire. At school, whispers chased me down every hallway. One afternoon, a group blocked my path. "Why don't you just disappear already?" one sneered. I met their gaze, the fire inside me flaring to life. "Watch me." At home, war simmered beneath forced smiles and cold shoulders. One night, Dad cornered me in the kitchen, voice low and venomous. "You think your attitude will get you anywhere? You're chasing illusions." I squared my shoulders, looking him dead in the eye. "I'm not chasing illusions. I'm chasing my life." For a fleeting moment, I saw something unfamiliar flicker in his eyes, fear. The next morning, the sunlight crept weakly through the dusty curtains of my cluttered room, casting long shadows across the scholarship letter resting on my desk. That letter wasn't just paper, it was a lifeline, a fragile promise that I could rewrite my story, leave the suffocating walls of Brookville and the family that never truly. But freedom rarely comes easy. Breakfast was a battlefield. The air hung thick with unspoken words and simmering tension. Lily's triumphant smile cut. Mom's eyes, once unwavering in their pride for Lily, flicked. That evening, as I nerved, "Camilla," she whispered, voice low but sharp enough to cut. "Are you sure?" Her words weren't discouragement. They were a warning. I met her gaze without flinching. This is my dream, my... She shook her head slowly, eyes clouded with something I didn't understand. You don't know what you're stepping into. News of the scholarship spread like wildfire. One afternoon, a group blocked my path. Scholarship girl thinks? I didn't back down. I'm just working harder. Their cruel laughter only fanned the flames inside me. I wasn't here to prove them. At home, the war simmered beneath forced smiles and icy silences. One night, Dad caught me alone in the kitchen. You think your attitude will get you anywhere? His voice was low, venomous. I squared my shoulders and held his gaze. I'm not chasing illusions. I'm chasing my life. For a fleeting moment, I saw something unfamiliar in his eyes, a flicker of fear, or maybe respect. The scholarship meeting was my first real test. I was an outsider, a young woman from a forgotten town fighting to belong. Cold glances, whispered doubts, and constant pressure threatened to crush me. Loneliness pressed in, sometimes overwhelming. But every time doubt crept up, I remembered the fire burning inside me, the promise I'd made to never be invisible again. Back home, the cracks grew deeper. Lily's smiles sharpened, her words cut deeper. One night, after a bitter argument, I overheard her on the phone, voice trembling. They think I'm perfect, but I'm scared. What if she takes everything? It struck me then this battle wasn't just mine. It was hers, too. Late at night, alone with my thoughts, I wrestled with hope and fear. Could I truly break free? Would I lose everything to find myself? Or was I doomed to live forever as a shadow? The road ahead was uncertain, dangerous. But one truth blazed in my heart. I was no longer invisible. I was fighting for my place in the world. Fog clung to the streets of Brookville as I made my way toward the old bridge, every step echoing the pounding of my heart. The night air was cold, thick with secrets buried deep beneath the town's quiet surface. With each breath, I felt the weight of what I was about to uncover, truths I both dreaded and needed to face. Mrs. Thompson waited in the shadows, her face worn by years of hidden pain. "Camilla," she whispered, her voice trembling yet urgent. "There are things your family has hidden, things you deserve to know." She handed me a fragile, worn envelope sealed with the family crest I'd seen my whole life but never understood. My fingers trembled as I broke the seal and unfolded letters written in my mother's hurried, shaky handwriting. The pages revealed desperate confessions, regrets, fears, and secrets too heavy to carry alone. Old photographs slipped out, smiles frozen in time, but eyes haunted by silent suffering. Beneath them, documents surfaced, debts, shadowy deals, and a binding contract that chained Lily and me to futures we never chose. My breath caught in my throat. "Why hide this from me?" I whispered, voice cracking under the weight of betrayal. Mrs. Thompson's eyes glistened with tears. "Because silence is power. They wanted to keep you under control." Returning home felt like stepping into a powder keg. The walls closed in tighter, colder than ever before. I confronted my parents, the envelope clutched like a weapon. "You lied to me," I said, voice steady but raw. "You built your empire on deception while I was left in the dark." My mother's eyes flashed with fear before masking it with anger. "We did what was necessary." Dad's jaw tightened. "Some truths are too dangerous to reveal." Lily's sneer was sharper than ever. "You'll never be one of us." But I met her gaze with unshakable fire. "I'm no longer your shadow. I'm your reckoning." Days blurred into a haze of whispered insults, cold shoulders, and friends who vanished like ghosts. Strangers spat venom in hallways. One afternoon, a group blocked my way. "You don't belong here," one spat. My chest tightened, but I stood tall. "Watch me." The fight wasn't just within my family anymore, it spread to every corner of my life. Threatening letters slid beneath my door. Unseen eyes watched from darkened windows. The walls weren't just closing in, they were suffocating. But I refused to back down. In the attic, I found a secret refuge, my mother's hidden diary. Her words painted a portrait of a woman torn between love and sacrifice, trapped in a web of regret and duty. Our family story wasn't black and white. It was a tangled tapestry of pain, love, and betrayal that bound us all. With Mrs. Thompson's guidance, I connected with others scarred by my family's shadow. Together, we began peeling back layers of lies. Each truth uncovered thickened the plot and raised the stakes. Under the pale moonlight, I made a vow to myself. I was no longer invisible. I was the storm. And the reckoning had just begun. The air in Brookville was thick with tension, as if the very walls were holding their breath. The fragile mask of my family's perfection had shattered, revealing cracks that ran deep beneath their carefully curated smiles. At home, the silence was no longer peaceful, it was a battlefield. My parents avoided my eyes as though I'd become a dangerous stranger. Lily's once sparkling smile had hardened into something cold, calculated, a weapon sharpened by years of fear and rivalry. Every conversation with her was a war of words, each glance a silent challenge. That night, the house felt like a cage. Shadows danced across the walls as I stood face to face with my mother in the dimly lit kitchen. "Why did you keep all this from me?" I demanded, voice trembling with a mix of anger and heartbreak. She hesitated, the flicker of the past haunting her eyes. "I did it to protect you, to protect us." "Protect or control?" I shot back. "I deserve the truth. I deserve to be your daughter, not a secret locked away." Tears welled in her eyes, but she couldn't meet my gaze. At school, whispers morphed into outright hostility. Friends I thought were allies became distant. Their smiles thinly veiled pity or suspicion. One afternoon, a shove sent me stumbling in the crowded hallway. "Watch your back, Camilla," hissed a voice I once trusted. I turned slowly, meeting eyes filled with betrayal. The battle wasn't just at home or school, it had spread everywhere. Threatening letters slid under my door. Shadows lurked just beyond sight. The judgment and fear pressed in like a vice. But I refused to back down. Alone in the attic, I clutched my mother's diary, the ink revealing the tangled roots of love, sacrifice, and regret that bound us all. Her words became my armor. I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was fighting for the truth, buried beneath decades of silence. With Mrs. Thompson's help, I formed fragile alliances with others wounded by my family's past. Together, we peeled back the layers of lies, each revelation a new crack in the foundation of deception. One night, the power snapped off. A shadow moved outside my window. My phone buzzed a warning. No name, no message. Heart pounding, I knew the reckoning was near. I was no longer the invisible girl. I was the storm gathering strength. And soon, the world would have to face the force I'd become. The grand living room, once a place of whispered grudges and frozen smiles, was now the arena for our final reckoning. Morning sunlight cast long, unforgiving shadows over my parents' faces, faces etched with fear, regret, and a fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, this time the truth could heal. Lily sat rigid on the edge of the sofa, her usual smirk gone, replaced by a flicker of doubt. I stood tall, the weight of years in my hands, piles of documents exposing lies, debts, and betrayals hidden beneath the family's polished veneer. "This ends today," I said, voice steady but charged with pain and fierce hope. "No more secrets, no more shadows. We face everything together, or not at all." My mother's lips trembled. "You don't understand what you're doing." "I understand more than you think," I replied. "I know what it means to be invisible, and I am done." Lily rose, fury blazing in her eyes. "You think you can break us? Without us, you're nothing." I took a step forward, unafraid. "I am everything I need to be and more." Words flew like daggers. Accusations ricocheted. Walls built on lies crumbled. But amidst the chaos, truth shone through. My father's voice broke, heavy with regret. "We made mistakes. We thought we were protecting you." My mother's tears spilled freely. "But it should never have been at your expense." For a fleeting moment, Lily's mask cracked. I saw not the cold sister I'd fought, but a frightened girl trapped by expectations and fear. When the storm finally passed, the air hung thick with change. We were no longer a family shackled by silence and lies, but one forced to rebuild from the rubble. The road ahead would be long and uncertain. But for the first time, I felt free. Free from shadows. Free to be myself. As I walked away from the house that once held me captive, the weight lifted from my shoulders. The world stretched wide before me, unknown, full of promise. I was Camilla Stevens, no longer invisible, no longer afraid. I was the storm that broke through the darkness. And this was only the beginning. Thank you for walking this journey with me, a story about rising from the shadows, finding your voice, and reclaiming your place in a world that tries to keep you unseen. If Camilla's story has touched your heart, inspired you, or reminded you that your worth is never defined by others, then know this: you are not invisible. You are not alone. Every one of us carries. So hold on to your fire. Stand tall in your truth. And never let anyone else's shadow dim your light. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Together, we can build a world where everyone is seen, heard, and valued. Remember, the storm inside you is your greatest strength.